Thank you, Gordon. And I got to see behind the scenes all the work that goes into the planning and organizing to make sure these are compelling sessions that all tie in with the main themes that are relevant and provocative. And I just want to personally thank Gordon because he's put a lot of work into this, and I think it shows. So. So with that, a big welcome to you for choosing the Innovation and Imagination panel right out of the gates of a really, really provocative morning session, I thought. We heard a lot of different perspectives, a lot of challenges, but also some progress. So we've set some new bars, and I think here we can dig in on what some think is always the leading edge of the economy, which is innovation and imagination. And certainly the folks we have here today have married a lot of that innovation with a technology layer. So I think technology will be probably a big theme today. So here's how we're going to run the panel. My real main job, believe it or not, is not to be a pretty face, believe it or not. Just kidding. Is to make sure everyone leaves on time and that I'm a fierce steward of the time. So we'll end at 1:45, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give each of our panelists a chance to do an extended bio over what I will just in a moment briefly do, as well as an introduction to their material. Everyone had on their table a summary of essays by all panelists, so I would also direct you to their written material if you want to go deeper or be in contact with them. After that, I'm going to dig into some of the questions and themes that were raised this morning, and maybe some others. From my viewpoint, I am managing director and co-founder of a seed investment fund known as Portland Seed Fund. And contrary to the name, we invest in Oregon and Southwest Washington. We've actually even invested in a Seattle company in, believe it or not, big data, which came up today. But what we do is we spot very early talent in the form of emerging seed and startup companies. We invest small amounts of capital with a lot of coaching mentorship around that, investor introductions so they can attract additional capital, and we help grow these companies to create incredible job growth, economic impact locally, as well as exit and liquidity ultimately for the investors. So that's what I do. I'm also fortunate enough to have a role at Portland State University as director of the Center of Entrepreneurship and overseeing that business accelerator, 30 startup companies there, 40,000 square feet. Again, really trying to capitalize on these future trends, which a lot of research and data have pointed to are just tremendous job creators. And they're not just living wage jobs, they're well-paid jobs. So that's me. Let me introduce the panel just super quickly here. And actually, a couple more ground rules. So we're going to get through some material, hopefully leaving time at the end for Q&A. So I'm going to ask you to keep track of those questions so that we don't have a dead silence at the end. Okay? Fair? Let's go. At the end here, we have Ken Hood, who is founder of Clear Access, a Vancouver-based company that had a huge economic impact, including to its investors, which I was one. Thank you, Ken, for my check I got through my investment in Oregon Angel Fund. And now he is director of Connected Home Solutions at Cisco, who acquired the company some years ago. Thank you, Ken. Next to him, we have, Leonard Felix, who's president of a Camas-based company known as CID Bioscience, and also Felix Instruments. And we're going to hear a little bit about how he spun out another company, and you can also read about that in the essay that he wrote. Thank you, Leonard. To his left, we have Bill Huseby, CEO of Sigma Design, who is currently employing over 60 people in downtown Vancouver, as I understand it, and is a vertically integrated design and development company. We're going to hear more from him about lean, efficient, and hopefully you can clue us in on the IPZ as well.
No.
No. Okay. Well, we'll help each other then. And then to his left, finally, Ken Levy, CEO of a software company called Fortel, recommendation software for e-commerce retailers. Full disclosure, Portland Seed Fund has invested in Fortel, so I'm not going to go easier on him as a result, just to let you know. Okay, so as I said, I was going to lob an opportunity to each of our panelists to give an extended bio and background, as well as launch into a little bit of their comments that they prepared for today. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the end with Ken Hood. And it's all about livability and attracting talent, is that right?
Indeed. Now, can you guys hear me, or should I hold the mic?
Yeah, let's rotate the mic here.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Testing? Great. As Angela mentioned, my name's Ken Hood. I'm born and raised in Vancouver, USA, and have lived here for the past 9 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in the technology business for over 20 years. I've started and founded 3 different companies, the last of which, Clear Access, was founded here in Vancouver, Washington, which is a startup company which created a software platform that sits in the cloud designed to manage all these devices. And what I'm doing today is a continuation of managing that business within Cisco, who acquired my company in 2012, managing what we call the Internet of Things. Any device that goes into the home or office environment that has an Internet connection ultimately needs to be managed and have visibility. So we're in the thick of things doing that. And through that experience, I've had the pleasure and opportunity to grow a company in Vancouver, learn what it's like to do that. And I'd like to bring to light today a couple megatrends that I see. One is that the global competition for talent is intense as it ever has been, and the premium is on the high value added software engineers. About 60% of the venture capital that was spent in 2013, the numbers are just in, 60% of that went to internet and software companies. $30 billion were invested in venture capital in the USA last year. Washington State came in 4th in the nation as a state, which is great. What's interesting, though, is we came in with 1.67% of the total, about $500 million, which is a substantial sum, but compared to the $30 billion, the concentration of that venture investment in technology was really in 3 markets: Massachusetts, California, New York, and New York City and the San Francisco Bay Area took over half of all that venture investment. A good friend of mine once said, top cities attract top talent. And I think that's largely true, and that's borne out by this, but that doesn't mean that we can't leverage some of the positive things that are happening here in the Portland area. And I think if we want to attract high-paying, high-skilled jobs to grow the tax base and offset some of the demographic changes that are coming, over the next 20 years, we're going to go from 11% of the population over 65 in Vancouver to 22%. And if we want to provide the kinds of services and infrastructure that we want to for that mix of folks in our society, we're going to need more young, higher-paying jobs attracted to Clark County. And the other trend I'd like to chat about during the panel session is urbanization. Why is it that we have a net inflow of high-tech jobs in the Portland area today? Why is that happening? Why are those people coming? And what I'd like to note is that it used to be the case that we would create all these incentives and try to attract businesses to locate. Now, what we're trying to do is attract people to come into a local community. People are going to be attracted by what the community has to offer, and the jobs will come to the people. That's a huge change. That's a sea change. And there's also a sea change of the reversal of the suburbanization moving towards urbanization. So those are the kind of the themes that I wanted to discuss in terms of how we can attract the kind of talent we want into Clark County.
That's perfect. Thank you, Ken. Leonard, go ahead with an
hello.
Extended bio and provoke us with some of your comments so we can get deeper.
I bought this company, CID Bioscience, about 7 years ago from an inventor and chemist who had developed a tidy little business of building tools for plant physiology researchers to measure different aspects of their plants. Now, his business, it was modest size, but it was international because how many plant physiology researchers do we have in the room today? Okay, so that demonstration shows that we have to go all over the world in order to find enough customers to make this business viable. That was an exciting thing to be getting involved in a real global business. But it kind of points to the fact that anytime you're putting a stamp on a box and sending it to your customer versus handing it directly to the customer, you're functioning in the global economy. There's no longer a local market, a domestic market, and a different global. It's all one big worldwide market. I'm interested in local economics because that points to the quality of life. It points to what our employees are doing. We're very tied into the local economy, But we do that because it's our responsibility to be tied into the local economy. Our paycheck comes from the global economy. And I think that, that distinguishes a retail business from a manufacturing business. And that's an important distinction to make. I'd also like to continue on with the discussion of the machinery and the automation and increase in productivity, removing jobs. It's going to be the responsibility of innovation to replace those jobs. Those jobs are not moving overseas, they're not going away, they're just disappearing. Productivity is removing the need to do the hand palletization, for example. It's the next level of technology, the next level of human advancement towards the world of Star Trek in the future. And it's innovation that's going to employ people in whatever comes next. So there won't be people stacking pallets, but there'll be people who are, it's hard to not be silly. It's painting spaceships, right? And this is the role of innovation on the much larger scale.
Great. Thank you, Leonard. Perfect timing. Bill.
Okay. So Sigma Design is a product design and engineering services company. We provide the engineering services from concept through production for people that need additional resources. They don't have the skill, the background, the experience, and so that's where we come in. We don't work on any of our own products. We work on other people's products, and so that's what we do. And we have offices here. We have an office in Singapore. We have employees in China, San Diego, Corvallis, Michigan. Pretty widespread footprint. Personally, I worked at Hewlett-Packard for 16 years, and I just got tired of doing what I had been doing. I moved up here. I'm not from here. Moved up here right out of school. When they asked, when I interviewed and they said, "Where do you want to live?" I said, "West of Denver." And it never dawned on me that the Northwest existed, even though I was in school in the Bay Area. And I ended up here, and I love it. But after 16 years with Hewlett-Packard, I just wanted to do something else. So I left, broke the golden thumb cuffs of HP, and went off and started the business, or actually joined my partner John, who I have since bought out. And in the early stages, Sigma Design was all about, we just had to grow, because that's what you do in America, right? You get measured by growth. And so that's what I focused on, is trying to grow the business. And 17 years later, my goal is still to grow the business, but it's the purpose and the reason has shifted a little bit. I want to be a part of the solution. I want to employ people. I want to create jobs. So I'm going to do that in my own little way, and provide a service and grow a company and make it a place where people want to work, and hopefully be a part of the solution in terms of employment, in terms of providing jobs, and in terms of growing the community. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. Ken Levy.
Cool. Thank you. So I live in Stevenson, Washington, rural area of Washington right around here. 17 years there. My kids are born and raised in Stevenson. This is my fourth startup after school. I've done startups. I sold my first one to Digimarc. I worked there for 5 years. If you follow Digimarc's recent press, 10% of their patent applications are in my name or patents. So Foretel and trends. There's two trends to me that are really important. One is regional is the new local. Local, it's bigger than it used to be. And two, access to capital is critical. Why do I think those? Foretel, what we do is we help people find what they want when they're shopping online. So when you're at a store and you're looking at a product and it says, people also bought this, you might like that, we're providing that for the online retailers. We're a virtual company that is selling to virtual companies around the world. So location is a very interesting aspect. To grow, we're 9 people now, located from White Salmon to Vancouver to Portland. To grow, we will need an office. All we care about our office is that it's on transit and it's near good restaurants. Location doesn't, that's all. I'd rather be in Washington. It's better taxes. Access to capital. So we're a cash-based company. Our customers pay us monthly with credit cards. We rent equipment monthly. I have $5,000 of assets in my company. Try to get a loan on that. I own some laptops that our employers use. That's it. So looking at venture capital, and there's no high-tech venture capital companies located in Portland, Vancouver area. There's a couple offices. Most of them are in the Bay Area or Seattle. Other trends, big data. We analyze 150 million shopper behaviors a night. Our system learns and knows what's going on. While I'm talking during the session, we'll send out over 1 million recommendations around the world. So a lot of data is coming through our system. It's a good economy. Online retailers grew 19% over last holiday seasons. Our online retailers, we studied 100 of them. It's growing. That's a big part of it. So we'll get into a lot of this stuff deeper. I guess another sub-trend that's very important to me, we talk about connectivity, how important that is as a virtual company. That matters. Education. If I want to attract top-notch employees, especially in the rural Vancouver areas, Camas, the Gorge, we need the best education system. We're doing great things with remote education. My daughter takes Clark College classes at her high school, but those are critical trends if I want to attract employees. So I look forward to questions. That's foretell and what we do.
Great. That's a wonderful intro, deeper intro to our panelists today. So we're here for a lot of reasons, but I'm hoping on this panel in particular that we can learn from your experience, panelists, on the front lines of both the challenges and the opportunities that come with the bleeding edge. How I'd like to do this is, if you don't feel like you have something to say on a question, don't feel like you need to answer it, but just, the simple age-old hand up, we can rotate the mic around to make sure everyone gets heard on this. So who wants to kick us off? What challenges and opportunities can we learn from you that you're currently seeing here, particularly to the Clark County area? Go ahead, Ken Hood. Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very, very passionate about this topic of attracting talent. And if you were to poll any of the CEOs at the local technology startups, which are flourishing in the Portland area today, if you ask them what are the top 3 strategic challenges you're facing over the next year, attraction and retention of top technical talent will either be number 1 or 2 on the list almost every time. Now, Portland's got a net inflow of smart, well-educated young people bringing tech talent into Portland. Why is that happening? Now, Portland has something that's unique, and I liken it to the new process we have on college entry. We've moved away from this notion of the well-rounded student to somehow the well-rounded student body. Now, regardless of what you think of that, that's the reality. What colleges are looking for, especially the most competitive ones, are to get some spiky trend or some unique trait out of the students that will help them create a well-rounded student body. And when young people are looking at migrating to an area, they're looking for what sets it apart. What does it offer? What does it stand for? So here's some of the things that Portland stands for. City of Roses, Rip City, Soccer City, Bridgetown, Stumptown, the most biked city in the United States, the most sustainable city in the United States, the highest per capita restaurants west of the Mississippi, the Pearl District, and the list goes on, and it has a bunch of things, including the largest urban park in North America. Forest Park is the largest urban park within city limits in North America. So it's got all these unique traits that attract people. Now, people are moving to Portland because it's hip, it's urban, it's sustainable, people are biking to work. Portland is the first city in the U.S. to have double-digit commuters to work. There are more people biking across the Hawthorne Bridge than driving cars over it on weekdays. And they have a bike counter on that bridge, which I think is genius marketing because it's showing quantitatively people are using these facilities. Now, in Vancouver, if you look at our image and how it's being projected, you can Google it, and you'll come up with a Wikipedia link. And the first thing that comes up is the etymology of Vancouver. And the first thing it's going to say is this is Vancouver, Washington, as opposed to its larger city up north in Canada. It's not Canada, is the first thing it says. And then it says Vancouver, otherwise known as the Couve, Vantucky, or the latest Vansterdam, which is coming from the association of the marijuana law that we just passed with Amsterdam. And that's what's there online. And if you look at the Vancouver City website, it actually does a very nice job laying out what we're about and what we have. It talks about it's a family-friendly city. It talks about the great schools we have. It talks about the river and all of our assets. But those are generic things. And what I would posit and challenge all of us to think about is, how could we make Vancouver spiky? How could we leverage the assets we have and perhaps aspire to some things that Portland doesn't have? We should leverage the heck out of Portland. In fact, Vancouver is the largest suburb of Portland. There's no shame in that. That's a wonderful thing. We have 164,000 people in the city and 480,000 people in Clark County. So Vancouver actually has a little over a quarter of the people that Portland has. So we have weight, we have punch. But I would posit that we could do some things that are unique, that distinguish ourselves outside of Portland. I think we could have the longest waterfront bike path in North America. If we stretch that bike path from downtown Vancouver to Camas, who knows what that would do, right? We could advertise that. But yet we have a beautiful stretch of bike path that goes a couple miles and it just stops at Beach's Restaurant. It just stops there. Why not continue that thing all the way down the line? Who else has a beautiful waterfront bike path that extends that distance? We may have one of the lowest student-to-teacher ratios in the nation. I know it's very low. It's like 20 to 1. Well, maybe that belongs on some list somewhere. We could be the #2 city in Washington. Right now, we're nipping at the heels of Spokane. Tacoma and Spokane are #2 and 3. But if Vancouver were to annex the areas which it tried to annex before, and I'm not saying that's a good idea, I don't have any opinion on that, but Vancouver is within striking distance. If it were to acquire some of those unincorporated areas, it would be the #2 city in Washington. I'd rather be nipping at Seattle's heels than nipping at Spokane's heels when I try to project an image of our city outside the area. We could be the best farmers market area in the state. We could have the most walkable downtown. So there's a lot of things we could do, and I've got some other ideas that I can share if there's time, but I think Vancouver could become spiky and have its own identity, independent of Portland, while riding the Portland wave. And if we do that, people are going to come here. And the kinds of people that we want to attract for our tax base will follow as well.
Thank you, Ken. Yep.
So I agree with Ken, and I look at it though a little differently. Like I said, to me, it's really important that Vancouver and Portland are connected. I mean, to me, the fighting over the bridge is just incredible because I can locate my office wherever I want. And it's beneficial for tax reasons to be in Vancouver, but I need to get people from Portland over for employees. And they need to be able to bike and rapid transit to work because the engineer is the new artistic person. Think about the old painter. That's how they are. The other side, this is it's fundraising. And I was talking to a guy in the Bay Area, and we've tripled revenue for 3 years in a row. And he said, oh, you're growing fast for a company in Portland, but not nearly as fast as a company in the Bay Area. So I didn't know that there was a different definition of fast. I thought there was fast and not fast. But, you know, we need capital here for companies to grow. We have an awesome angel seed investment group. What Portland Seed Fund, what a lot of people have done, have got a lot of companies launched like us. You need some money to make a product. But now we're stuck. We're only tripling revenue. We want to 10x that. We need some, and not much, a couple million, $3 to $5 million can totally change what we can do with capital. And because we sell a service, again, revenue, when I send a customer up, they're going to stick with us for 4 years. We have a 99% retention rate, but they pay me monthly. So unlike a product that you sell, you get all this money in, you can use it to develop the next stage. Again, it's a cash business. It's so wild that everything is every month is cash in, cash out. And how we look at that. And we can't get bank loans. We need venture capitalists. We need them to be located here and know these businesses, not going down, to the Bay Area and trying to introduce yourself for the first time. Mm-hmm. So again, just looking at the connectivity and why things are important to grow Vancouver, Portland is one region.
Thank you. I was going to hope to pick on Bill a little bit as somebody who has done a good job retaining, recruiting folks to Vancouver. Can you talk about some of the challenges and opportunities with using Vancouver as a magnet?
Sure. So we have been growing. We've added a lot of engineers, especially lately. We added 29 people last year alone. And recruiting engineers has been, we have to put effort into it, but they're out there. They're becoming fewer and fewer that are looking for work. But to us, part of our challenge is in the trades. The U.S. has kind of put the whole trades thing on the back burner. We used to have trade schools, high schools, that focuses on the trades. Welders, technicians, machinists, plumbers, whoever. And that seems to have gone away. And the apprenticeship programs aren't there anymore in industry. And so for us, it's a little bit more challenging finding the tradespeople that are qualified to do the job. So we tend to bring that up, educate those people internally, hire folks that are really should have gone to the trade schools. And so that's, to us, is the challenge, not necessarily on the engineering side. Engineers will move, engineers will commute. Trades folks typically don't.
Okay. Anything on the opportunity using where you're at? You are in the urban core. Is that an attractor?
Yeah, we're right downtown. So being right downtown isn't as important for us as having a work environment that is appealing. And in our downtown office, you'd go by it. We're right there by kind of between Paul's and the old Doolins. There's a building there, the old Lorenz building. And you look at it from the outside and you really wouldn't assume anything. It's corrugated side. It kind of looks industrial. And then when you walk in, I like to think it takes your breath away. And it's just a very unique building that we worked really hard at trying to make it somewhere where people wanted to come to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell people that I don't want to be there. I don't want to work, right? I don't want to. My challenge, I would like to have the challenge of being independently wealthy and figure out how to raise my kids with a work ethic. I think that would be a good challenge, but I'm not independently wealthy. I haven't won the lottery, so I have to go to work. And I want to make it a place where everybody enjoys it. They don't wake up and go, oh, geez, it's another, I got to go to work, right? I want them, sure, we all have bad days, but I want them to want to come to work, to want to show it off to their significant other, their kids, their parents, their friends, and say, look, this is where I work. And so when you walk through that front door, there's a transformation that happens just because of the work environment. And you forget where you are. It's not about being in Vancouver. It's not about being in Clark County. It's about being at Sigma Design. And we try to do that.
That's great. So you're finding branding and paying attention to your internal culture and brand is key for you.
It's what I do.
It's what
That's
you do.
all I do. That's my job.
Okay.
And it's extremely important because Sigma Design is only as good as the people that we hire. It's all about people and making sure that we hire the right people, retain the right people, make it a good work environment. Then good things happen.
Okay, thanks. Can you pass the mic over to Leonard? I'm going to pick on Leonard a little bit. We've been talking a lot about challenges, and his essay focused a lot on opportunities where you might not expect them in the innovation process, innovation by accident or necessity. So you want to tell us a little bit about the backstory there?
Yeah, sure. You mentioned initially you spoke about the bleeding edge, and we had tried to migrate from plant science researchers, which is, as I mentioned, a very limited market. We were doing okay with them, but once you get to the 40,000 plant science researchers, there's no more to sell to. We innovate, we come up with new products, but we really needed to transition to a larger market to compete in. We were able to identify some tools that would be of use in commercial produce, in fruit growers, fruit packers, any kind of handling of produce. So we stepped into that fray, and we tried to introduce a brand new product. It's an ethylene gas sensor. This was a very difficult thing to do, and we thought we knew how to do it. One of the challenges is we were on the bleeding edge, and 3 other people had stepped up to bat prior to us and failed. So the expectation from any of the early adopters was, oh, here's another piece of junk that someone's trying to peddle to do this magic stuff that can't be done. Ours works. It can be done. So we had to overcome all of these other companies' failures in order to introduce our product to this fairly small pool of early adopters. We're still working through that, but we're gaining traction, and we're trying to get into get beyond the early adopters into the mass markets.
The mass market.
And luckily, ethylene is something that people are starting to understand. It's this gas that makes your apples ripen faster or your bananas ripen faster when you put them next to the apples. And fruit handlers are now keenly aware of it in the last 5 or 10 years. Now we've got a tool where they can actually measure this invisible stuff. And so we expect to do very well with that. But getting past that, that rough ground, which 3 other companies had made rough, that was a big challenge.
And having to redefine your customer too, it sounded like. Yes.
Yeah, that's actually, we had to create a whole new business. We sell through a distribution channel of local resellers. And these are local folks who know all of the universities in their country or all of the universities in their region, and they spend their time going out to the professors and showing them tools and showing them research equipment. They never step foot in a produce warehouse. They never step foot on a farm. So we needed to find a whole new way to distribute this. Again, we're intent on being a global company. And we had to develop a new channel that was going to go out and show these products to the farmers, to the warehousers, to the fruit packers. And so we're in the process of doing that. And we're using all sorts of techniques from just personal references to the Gold Key service that the U.S. Department of Commerce offers, where they'll find a list of candidate companies, make the introductions, help you with the interviews, even coordinate visits to these foreign countries, and we're continuing to grow that. And we're into about 4 different countries right now with our Felix Instruments products, which is the products that are focused on actual commercial produce.
Okay, thank you, Leonard. Again, trying to hit on some of these and extend these sort of provocative good themes that came up in the afternoon or in the morning. We've touched on successful communities as it relates to livability and talent recruitment. We've touched on capital. We've sort of touched on job replacement, but I want to dig deeper on this innovation's role in job replacement, which came up this morning and Leonard echoed. I think it was John who brought up the theme of disruption is necessary, but the short-term impact can be social upheaval, fear of change, local impact. But then the corollary was, yes, but innovation has a role in solving some of those ills. So I want to open that up to whoever wants to grab at that. Innovation's role in job replacement.
Well, you know what? Let me mention the newest product that we're introducing is a produce quality meter, which looks inside of the fruit using various light sources. And it looks inside the flesh of the fruit and tells you the sugar content and the firmness and the water to dry matter ratio, things like this. All of this feeds into the experience of biting into a fruit, what you taste and what you feel. So here we've got a machine that can look at the fruit and put a number on it. So the job that's going to be lost is the foreman in the field who is telling the workers when they're ready to pick and when they're not ready to pick. Because now you can analyze it numerically and come up with a number and have a consistent level of quality of the fruit. That job's got to get replaced. That job will be replaced in a company like ours, designing the instruments, building the instruments. It's not unlike Willy Wonka when the fellow at the toothpaste factory was put out of work by the machine that put the caps on the toothpaste, and then he got a job at the end of the movie where he was fixing the machine that puts the cap on the toothpaste.
That's a great example. I got prompted that it's time to go to the audience, so let's see what our audience wants to learn about. Yes, sir. Oh, excuse me. If you don't mind standing up, and we can hear you, but maybe they can't in the back, so if you don't mind almost turning so everyone can hear you, that would be great.
Well, what about us?
You'll be able to hear, like halfway.
Okay.
This question is directed to Bill. I've had the enjoyment over the years of watching, to some extent, both your website and articles in the Columbian about your company's growth. So the question is, how did you accomplish that? You've addressed it to some extent through this big downturn, and if I could ask you to speculate, how do you think that will play out in the next 5 years?
I'm going to repeat the question. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the question. I've been too many times in the back of the room and can't hear the question, but I'm very sympathetic. So the question was admiring Bill's ability to grow, continue to grow his business through downturns, and how did he accomplish that?
So a good question. Part of the answer is I don't know, okay, to be honest. But also it really comes down to just providing a good service, just doing a good job. And whatever we're asked of, whatever the client comes in and says, can you do this, our first reaction is always to say yes. And then we think about it and we go, should we really say yes? And because I don't want to fail. And so we do say no. Okay, and we'll be the first one. I'll be the first one to say no. But I think it really comes down to just doing a good job. I mean, it's really no different than say, a McDonald's, right? Why do you go back to McDonald's? Well, because you liked the burger. They did a good job. You got it quickly. It was consistent. It was the same. I don't care if you go to the McDonald's in Singapore, Hong Kong, Vancouver, Portland, wherever. It's the same burger. The sauces are a little different around the world, but you just do a good job. And it just... What's that? We deliver it on time. And it works. Someone comes to us and says, can you design a machine that does X, Y, Z? We design a machine that does X, Y, Z. And we do it on time. Time is a real important thing in our business schedule, because if the production line doesn't go up, if it's not functioning, if the product isn't released, that's lost revenue. Right off the bat, lost revenue for the company. And so when we say we're going to deliver something, we deliver it. And that is not, we don't compromise that. So, and it has to work. So with the machines we design, with the products that we design, and we have industrial designers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers. Some of our projects are just to one discipline. Some are multiple discipline. And we come together as a team, and when the client asks for something, we design it, we prototype it, we build it, we ship it, and it takes the whole team, and we do that, and we don't compromise on the quality, and we don't compromise on the schedule. And guess what? People come back and ask for more.
Thank you for the question. Great question. Sure.
I read a lot on successful startups, and happy customers are number one. One of our top cultures is customer satisfaction. If a customer calls in during a company meeting, take that customer call. If you're talking to me, take the customer call. I'm less important than a customer. Just everything. We measure everything we do. We guarantee a 10 times ROI. We'll change our pricing if you're not making 10x what you're paying us. It's just really focused. And also knowing with some customers, we can't do that. I'm sorry, very quickly saying, nope, we're the wrong people, and give them a refund and let them leave happy. And And talking to customers that leave you, talking to customers that choose you, talking to customers that don't choose you, or I guess at that point, prospects. But those are just all really important. And people don't believe it when you hire them. But we really do it. I've actually never had an employee leave our company. We are only 3 years old. We've had to let some go, but so it really matters to employees that we live up to what we say.
Thank you. Another question in the back.
So the question that I have is around the connection to higher ed, and what are your companies, and I don't know if we'll have time for everyone to answer, but what are your companies doing to connect with higher ed, especially the local institutions like Washington State University, Vancouver, and Clark College?
Everyone heard that okay? Okay, go ahead. Who wants to dive in there?
We've been hosting interns for several years, and we put the interns to work, and we don't believe in unpaid internships. So all of these are paid internships. In fact, Camas High School recently came to us and they asked us to do some unpaid internships for their students. And I said, if it goes more than 2 weeks, we can't do it unpaid, because we're having these folks really contribute to our business and really add to our business. So they're actually getting work experience when they're in school, and they're getting, not a huge wage, but they're getting a wage for it, and they feel obligated to do good work, and we expect them to behave as a real employee. We've been bringing in students from PSU, from WSUV, and we'd like to develop some relationship with Clark. The very best form of recruiting is when we meet professors through online discussions, or when we meet professors at different events, and we'll discuss a problem that we're having, and they'll discuss some work that they're doing, and we'll identify a candidate that we can bring in and give them some direct real work experience. And that's been the best way for finding great interns.
Okay, thanks, Leonard. Bill wants to, Ken and then Bill. Sorry.
We had an internship program at Clear Access, and we would hire software engineers, ideally not just for the summer, but for a one-year program, and we would try to work around their schedules and allow them to work remotely, and it actually worked really well. It's incredible the amount of ideas and technology is changing so quickly that we learned probably as much from the interns as they learned from us. But I think it's been mentioned about Washington State here is a four-year university here in Vancouver. I don't think we fully capitalize upon what's there. I think there is an opportunity to create sort of a technology center there. Just needs more effort and focus. I also want to go back to what Bill mentioned earlier about apprenticeships. There's a huge movement right now in Spain, Italy, and even the UK to replicate the German apprenticeship program, because it's proven to lower unemployment among young people, and it works. And I think if we took a page out of that book as a community and looked at that and really leveraged Clark College and a lot of the technical trades there, that would be huge. One of the problems I've had, and I've hired a lot of software engineers over the last 10 years in this area, is that we can find software engineers at a certain price, but we couldn't find software engineers who are willing to do test and development and some of the non-core programming skills. So we had to do those things overseas in India. Now, the cost of an Indian engineer is about half what it is for a domestic engineer, and the productivity is about half. So if I could hire a local engineer, I'd do it every single time, but I couldn't, because there were no engineers who were in the skill class we needed for development and test and things like that. And those are the kind of skills that apprenticeships can deliver. Those are the kind of skills that Clark College, I think, could help with.
Excellent. Thanks, Ken. Bill, anything to add on that?
We don't tend to hire interns, although we have, but we do sponsor projects, engineering projects. And my goal whenever we sponsor one is to not have what happened when I got sponsored, when I was in engineering school, which was I got sponsored by SLAC, which is the Stanford Linear Accelerator, and they gave us a project. We worked on it. It was a test unit that was going to go in, and we designed it. And when we came out the other end and presented, the sponsor went, yeah, well, that's not exactly what we did. And I went, what? This isn't going to go in? Oh, no. And it was just a paper exercise, and it really pissed me off. So now when we sponsor folks, I want something out of it. I want them to, design a crimping tool or design a salt spray chamber and build it and something that my company can use. So I swore I wouldn't repeat what happened to me. So.
Do I have time for one more audience question? Okay, great.
Can I add something to that?
Yes,
I'll be
please.
really quick. So internships, lower ed is really important too. We're hiring top-notch software engineers. They have families, they have kids. They only want to live here if their kids can go to a top-notch school. So I always hear about the higher ed, and I always say we got to have the best K through 12 schools around if you want to attract talent. So that's...
Great point. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Is there another question from the audience? Okay. Yes, sir.
In terms of your support staff, your non-professional staff, what are you using? What are the changes that have taken place? What has technology done in terms of that kind of thing?
That's a great question. If you couldn't hear in the back, the question is, how has technology influenced your middle-level jobs, your non-engineer jobs, and that? Is that fair?
We do our engineering, our product design, and our manufacturing and our sales all in-house. So we've got an assembly line, we've got a machine shop. And with this move from scientific instruments to commercial produce, we're expecting to build a lot more product. Hopefully we'll build 100 times as much product. I'm not planning on growing the assembly lines by 100-fold. We're going to invest rather in the engineering to make the products easier to assemble, to require fewer employee hours in assembling it, and grow the assembly jobs as modestly as possible. We want to put our efforts, our money towards investing in the higher end skill sets.
Okay. Great. Others?
Go ahead.
So the question is, how's technology affecting the entry-level positions or the support positions, the administrative positions? And of course, we have email, and we have the Excel spreadsheets, and the computer. And I think the technology that is forgotten and is something that really needs to be used, and I encourage people all the time, is the telephone. And pick up the telephone, please. I was standing around, and there was a group of folks that were debating on, and there were some younger folks in the group, and they were debating, should we ask the client about this? What should we do? We're going to compose this email. How do we do it? And I said, hang on a minute. And I pulled out my phone, and I dialed the client, and I said, Greg, what do you think we should do? Can we do this, that, and this? He goes, yeah. I said, great, thanks. And I said, don't bother with the email. He just said we could do it. And everyone dispersed. Okay, great, thanks. And this younger kid looks at me and goes, wow. He goes, you old guys do that phone thing really well. Pick up the phone. Talk to the person.
That's great. Thank you.
Again, it's all automated. We just switched to a marketing tool. I know when every customer has looked at our website, what email they've opened, it tells us when we should call them for the review. We send out reports automatically. Our support staff for a couple hundred customers is 1.5 people. Because we have so much automation that we just need to talk to the customer, monthly for bigger customers, quarterly for smaller customers. And we have so much of it automated and keep automating it.
Thank you, Ken. I think we have time for one short question, and then I'm going to lob one challenge question over the panel line here to close. Yes, sir.
Washington created this innovation technology zone for East Vancouver and Camas area.
Yes.
How is that going to affect all the technology?
Great. The question is, how is the IPZ, the Innovation Partnership Zone, going to affect technology and you guys?
I don't know.
Anybody?
I think it needs
Okay. It's pretty new, my understanding is. Is there someone who can enlighten us?
Yeah, I'm Sandy Town from the city of Vancouver. It's very new. We just got the award. It was just awarded from the state. And we have yet to really reach out to all the businesses that we need to reach out to really start understanding how we can take advantage of that award and how we can take advantage of and maybe create an organization to accomplish some of the things these folks have been talking about today. Connections between education, between the workforce, and just a lot of other events. How do we make our Vancouver a place where everyone thinks of as digital technology and knowledge based?
Mm-hmm.
And you've already kind of touched on some of those things. You've touched on land use, you've touched on planning issues, but we also need to just look at kind of more the business economic development issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we are looking so forward to talking to you, and I hope all four of you are open to my phone call.
That's a perfect tee up for next year when there will be a deeper discussion, I'm sure, of the IPZ when it has a chance. Okay, wonderful. Just a comment on that from my viewpoint. Again, I invest in very early stage entrepreneurs who have the capacity to grow great companies. And one of the companies we've invested in at Portland Seed Fund is On The Go Platforms, OTG, and they were recently profiled in the Columbian, I believe. The founder is from Clark County and probably would have preferred to build the company here, but at the time, he didn't have access to the tools he needed to do so. So he did reluctantly come to Portland. This is just a wonderful story of a young, bright kid who got a patent early. What he's doing with his new team now of 8 is creating the platform layer to go on top of smart glasses, along with some apps. Because if you think about your smartphone, it's useless without layers of stuff it can do besides answer those calls, although that's obviously still very important. They've got investors from Mark Andreessen's group. They've got investors from Google Ventures Group, and they recently got angel syndicated investment from Foundry Group, which is one of the best-known seed stage investors in the industry. So again, I believe that had the IPZ and what it's promising and planning existed, they probably would have stayed and grown here. So anyway, it's all good stuff. All the right stuff's happening. The seeds have been planted. So thank you.